I can't believe I'm sitting here filming this video after only about a year from starting this channel. Am I really here filming this 10K subscriber special? Is it crazy or what? And I know that 10,000 subscribers in general YouTube terms is not that much, but in a niche sector like fragrances where big channels are considered big, at 100,000 subscribers, it's not that bad, especially considering it's only been a year. And it's also kind of crazy that I'm here celebrating my 10K subscriber milestone while almost at the same time celebrating 1 year of the channel. And you might say that 1 year in YouTube is not that big of a deal, but for me it's been pretty intense. I've been uploading like crazy, never skipping on uploading every other day a video. It's been a ton of work and I've learned so much. And what I've learned is far beyond the boring YouTube logistics, it's far beyond how YouTube works. Hell, it's even far beyond fragrances. What I've learned is mostly from you guys. I've learned that fragrances are very, very subjective, that there's so much storytelling behind fragrances, there's so much association. People like what they like, and it's absolutely fine. Most genuine fragrance enthusiasts might be fond of a specific perfume or scent profile, not necessarily because it speaks to them notes-wise, but because they have a very strong scent memory associated to that perfume. Maybe they've worn the perfume in a beautiful moment of their life, maybe a critical moment of their life, but all of this just adds to the narration, adds to the personal connection with the fragrance. And neither me or any other so-called fragrance influencer has the ability to take that away. That is actually my biggest lesson learned. Perfumery is incredibly subjective. It's incredibly personal. Everyone likes what they like, and it's absolutely fine. So it doesn't really make sense for an influencer, for our channel to put out recommendations on which perfumes are the best to be worn in a specific season, or just which are the best perfumes in general. And that is the main reason why I do what I do, how I do it. I like talking about fragrances on a personal level, on a very personal experience sort of level. I love the storytelling part of fragrances. I like associating a fragrance, a smell, a perfume to a life event. I like associating it to a feeling, to a personality. I like associating it to real life. This whole communication and connection part of fragrances is actually what I'm most fond of. And apparently you guys like it too, because here we are, 10,000 subscribers later, 1 year later, I'm still making videos. You guys are still interacting, commenting, liking the videos, and just giving me feedback. And for that alone, thank you so much. I could have never done it without you. That being said, let's dive right into the meat and potatoes of this episode, because it might be a long one. For my 10K subscriber special, I decided to feature another list. This one here, easily the most requested ever. Welcome to my top 10 favorite fragrances of all time. But before we start, I have to put out a few disclaimers. Not only was this list incredibly challenging to put together, and it took me the better part of a week. Every day I would basically write down my top 10 fragrances to see if they would align and to see if it was consistent. I find it incredibly difficult to single out fragrances as my favorites of all time. This statement alone is so committing, it's so final that I can't really commit to it. And for a person like me with an incredibly transitioning collection, because I buy and sell often, not only to keep the number of fragrances that I own as low as possible, but also obviously to fund new purchases, naming out favorites is incredibly difficult because it's so mood and time dependent. My favorites might change throughout the year, throughout the seasons, throughout my emotional state. Once I finally made the selection, and that was an ordeal in itself, I also tasked myself with ranking these fragrances from position 10 to position 1, from my least favorite to most favorite. And this was also incredibly difficult because these fragrances, the fragrances that I've selected, didn't really compete with each other. It's not like one fragrance is clearly better than the other. They're just so different. And I tried to keep it as varied as possible, covering all purposes. Actually, scratch that. I'm not necessarily covering purposes, I'm covering vibes. I'm covering different sort of feelings. And I didn't want to keep it too redundant because otherwise I would probably feature only incense fragrances. That is clearly my favorite note. And I wanted also to feature a broad range of brands. And as you may know, I really like Amouage, and I really couldn't do much about the fact that I included 3 Amouage fragrances in the list. I just like them that much. But other than that, I tried to keep the list as varied as possible. And as a general rule, these are fragrances that really speak to me, that I really gravitate towards. These are fragrances that I really feel like wearing, basically on a constant basis. All of them are absolutely amazing. And I want to touch upon the concept of favorites just one more time, because some people, especially when looking at the bottles, especially when looking at the fill levels, will be doubting if these fragrances are actually my favorite. In the past, I've received comments, and I've seen comments on other YouTube channels stating basically that, how can a fragrance be your favorite if you barely spray it? To that, I have to say that there's a number of factors factors that influences the fill level of bottles. First and foremost, the size of your collection. If you have a lot of fragrances and you're keen on wearing all of them, there's no way that you can put a lot of wears in a single fragrance. Second of all, the concept of favorite is not necessarily tied to how much you wear a fragrance. For example, if you're a car collector, your favorite car might not necessarily be the one that you drive the most. It might be the one that feels most special to you, the one that you have a connection with, or the one with a brand that you most resonate with. And the same thing applies to watches. It might apply to even clothes. Your favorite piece of clothing might be something that is exceptionally elegant that barely gets anywhere. Maybe like a tuxedo, maybe like a special dress. It doesn't make it any less of a favorite. It's the way you think about the product, it's the way you gravitate towards it, and it's the way you talk about it. That is what makes a favorite. Also, very last disclaimer, and I feel silly even just talking about this because it's so obvious to me, this is my list of fragrance. It's not yours. So please don't get offended if your favorite fragrance is not in the list. If something that I've talked about very enthusiastically in the past is not in the list. I like a lot of fragrances. I actually genuinely like most of the stuff I review. I always find a positive aspect in them. And although I deem myself analytical and critical, it's actually very rare for me to dislike a fragrance. It's very rare for me to find the fragrance boring, disappointing, or even offensive. But enough with the intros, enough with the disclaimers. Let's dive right into the list. It's about time. For position number 10, which is my least favorite of my favorites, and for whatever reason that statement alone kind of makes me giggle because it's absurd, I chose a citrus scent. And I was actually torn between two scents. I really liked them both, but ultimately I had to choose Summer of '84 by Kerosene. This fragrance is absolutely amazing. I love how energetic, how zingy, how fresh, and how summery this feels. This beautiful fragrance by the American perfumer John Pegg is an exceptional example of how to put out a product on the market which is evocative, emotional, and that perfectly brings back childhood memories. This apparently is inspired by John Pegg's childhood, the summer of '84 in Detroit, where he was looking at the world through the lens of a kid. And in the dead of that American summer, he was drinking grapefruit soda, eating melon flavored candies, and just overall being a child. I already featured this fragrance in my Frag Talk episode 5 with Luke, and I talked about how this really affects my mood. It really puts me into that childish mentality. It really makes me optimistic. It really makes me curious and just fills my brain and eyes with wonder. Every time I put this on, the fresh, bitter, sour, effervescent, citrusy nature of this fragrance puts me in such a good mood. It just fills my heart with optimism. It's the perfect way to start a warm season day. It's so great. And although I was not a kid able to experience things in the summer of '84 because I was born in the summer of '84, I still strongly associate this to my childhood. I still strongly associate this to the late '80s, early '90s, to all those beautiful coming of age movies. And again, as I mentioned in Frag Talk episode 5 with Luke, this fragrance really brings to my mind the movie Stand By Me and that beautiful sense of childish adventure, that wonder. I love this fragrance. It's super long lasting. It's so refreshing, so invigorating. It's perfectly summery. It perfectly symbolizes summer. It perfectly symbolizes warm mornings, warm sun, just fun days at the pool, fun days as a kid. And as an adult, I really can use a lot of this. I really can use that mood. I absolutely love wearing this fragrance. I love the emotional state that this thing triggers, and I'll be wearing a ton of it this upcoming summer. For fragrance number 9, I decided to go for a good old stinky. This one here is a fragrance that I've been talking about a lot recently. It's Meo Fusciuni Varanasi. I could not avoid to include a fragrance by Meo Fusciuni. It's one of my favorite houses. It's grown to be one of my favorite houses. So poetic, so communicative, so romantic. Giuseppe Imprezzabile, aka Meo Fusciuni, the perfumer for this house, is such a subtle, understated person. He's so introverted, he's so shy, and he puts a lot of his personality into these perfumes. Varanasi is not the best example of representing Meo as a person, in my opinion, just because it's more focused on depicting Varanasi, the city. But overall, I do feel that it really represents Meo Fusciuni's approach to life. Varanasi is a very stinky fragrance. It opens up incredibly animalic. It smells foul. It smells like poop, like piss. It smells a little bit like death. Again, maybe I'm reading through the lines. Maybe I'm biased by the idea that I have of Varanasi. But then the fragrance really shifts gears and it changes completely, becoming this incredibly beautiful, romantic, poetic floral. And I think that this fragrance here, other than being an incredible representation of the timeless city of Varanasi, it's also a beautiful journey of understanding and appreciation. Basically, you're greeted with the city, which is loud, stinky, vibrant, saturated, and just a little bit overwhelming. But then as time goes on, as you experience the city as a civilian and you just walk the streets as a civilian, you start understanding the culture, understanding the vibe, getting in touch and communicating with the locals, becoming friends, and just developing this deep appreciation. The foul stench that greeted you at the beginning becomes this romantic memory, and you leave the city just with newfound appreciation for new cultures, new events, new sensations. This is an incredible fragrance. It's so transportive, so evocative. And again, although it doesn't necessarily represent Meo Fusciuni and Italy and his personality, I do feel that his vision for Varanasi is perfectly replicated. This fragrance is a statement piece. I wear it almost as a piece of art. I wear it for inspiration. It's that good. And although I genuinely enjoy the notes, I generally enjoy the smell of this, I wouldn't necessarily wear it in public. It's not for that. It's not meant for that. This is a transportive experience. I love wearing it. I love what it represents. I love the concept and communication behind it. I love Meo Fusciuni, and I absolutely wanted to feature him and one of his fragrances in this list, even just for the brand. As I said before, you might really identify with a brand. That brand might mean a lot to you. And Meo Fusciuni has been one of the best discoveries of the last year. Thanks to this channel, thanks to your inputs, I really got my nose on Meo Fusciuni. I got inspired to go and try these. I'm so grateful. This is such an amazing fragrance, and I recommend Meo Fusciuni to all of you guys. You could say that fragrance number 8 is a stinky one and that I generally like stinky fragrances, and you would be right. This one here is actually a fairly recent acquisition, and I'm surprised that it made this list. We're talking about Orto Parisi's Cuoium. In a similar way to Meo Fusciuni, I absolutely had to include a fragrance by Alessandro Gualtieri, and this one here is probably my favorite of the bunch. Alessandro Gualtieri is one of my favorite perfumers and marketers. I just like his style, I like his persona, I like his irony, sarcasm, and just general tongue-in-cheek humor. And as I said in all of my reviews, I don't necessarily praise him for his perfumery skills directly. I mostly praise him for his marketing skills, for his ability to create such a unique and strong brand identity. Both Nasomatto and Orto Parisi are incredibly iconic and recognizable brands that basically became synonymous with niche perfumery. All the fragrances are very, very edgy, very provocative. A lot of them have a sexual background and connotation, and people seem to absolutely love him. Cuoium is one of his latest creations by Orto Parisi. It was the latest before Risveglium. It's one of the fragrances that really speaks to me the most. Maybe it's because I genuinely like the warm animalic smell of this. Maybe it's because I like the concept and idea of this fragrance. Maybe it's because I just generally like leather. Leather is such an amazing thing. It's so ingrained in humanity. It's so gritty, so rustic, so hands-on. We've been using leather as a species for millennia, and it just really represents humans. It represents human crafting and the ability of humans to survive and endure and thrive in the harsh environment and harsh outdoors. I love the idea of leather. I love the idea of Cuoium and the way it celebrates leather. It goes basically through all the stages of leather, from the animal to the very refined, very clean shoe. It's such a beautiful, transportive, evocative scent. It's so multifaceted in typical Alessandro Gualtieri style. Yes, it might not be the purest form of perfumery out there. Maybe the ingredients are not those of the highest quality. Maybe he uses a lot of synthetics. Maybe the development process is not the most traditional. But Alessandro Gualtieri always manages to convey the message, and ultimately he doesn't really care. And that is one of the reasons why he doesn't even list the notes. His perfumery is art. His perfumery is messaging. His perfumery is communication. These are basically art pieces in a bottle. I have to fully admit that Scent Alone, I was a little bit on the fence about showcasing this, mainly because I also have Amouage Silver Oud, which scent profile wise is very, very similar. It still conveys the same warmth, the same stinkiness, the same animalic notes, super long lasting, a little bit more refined, a little bit more classy. But also and mainly because I wanted to showcase and credit Alessandro Gualtieri for creating some of the more amazing, narrative, evocative, and just thought-provoking fragrances in modern perfumery. If you never put your nose on anything by Gualtieri, either from Nasomatto or Orto Parisi, do yourself a favor, get yourself some samples, smell these incredible fragrances, and be amazed. In position number 7, I decided to feature my favorite marine fragrance of all time, and after thinking long and hard about it, I decided it could be nothing else but Profumum Roma Acqua di Sale. I'm in general a huge fan of realistic marine fragrances. Some say that fragrances like this smell too much like fish, they smell too much like port, they smell too much like sea salt, like algae, but these are all the things that I like about them. They're so evocative, and I do find the sea so romantic and so beautiful, just so relaxing in general. This fragrance, in my opinion, is the most beautiful and elegant rendition of the sea out there that is still realistic. Other fragrances, which are monsters like Black Sea by La Rosa Vazzaglia or Mega Mare by Orto Parisi, are still realistic. They're still very narrative and evocative, but they just turn the volume up to 11, just too much. They're too in your face. They're not really wearable. This perfume takes the same realistic sea concept, that beautiful image of being on the beach, maybe on the rocks, being slightly splashed by the sea spray, smelling the salt, smelling the algae, just being in the moment. It's so realistic. It's such an amazing feat of perfumery. It's so simple, it almost wears like a smell rather than a fragrance. And this is also true for other Profumum Roma scents. They're all incredibly linear, very direct in imagery. They smell super high quality. They smell very artisanal. I love Profumum Roma. I like that it's a family-run house. I like that it's Italian, and I like that they depict Italian scenery and Italian images. I love Acqua di Sale because it reminds me of the sea next to Rome. I used to go to the sea a lot, especially in the winter, not necessarily to sunbathe or anything like that, but I just like the sea vibe. I like the waves. I like the calmness of the water. I love it, and this perfectly represents that image to me. I also like the other creations by Profumum Roma, namely Arzo and Acquaviva. Acquaviva was actually my contender for citrus fragrance, very much competing with Summer of '84 by Kerosene, but that one there edging it out slightly just because it's so full of optimism. By the way, this one here is also very refreshing, very invigorating, very optimistic. I don't wear this as much as I would like, just because living in the mountains of Switzerland, having such a realistic marine scent is a little bit jarring. It's a little bit out of place. Every time I'm on vacation though, I wear this, I bring this, and I love it. I already went through a decant of this, and I'll be planning to wear this a lot more in the upcoming summer month. In position number 6, we have my first Amouage of the 3, clearly stating that the brand is easily dominating the top half. This one here is another freshie. It's another beautiful warm weather fragrance. It's Beach Hut Man. Oh boy, what can I say about Beach Hut Man that I haven't said many times over? This is one of the more beautiful fresh fragrances in my collection, if not the most beautiful. It's so green, so invigorating, so empowering. Every time I smell this, my pupils dilate. It's so energetic. There's nothing else in my collection that gives me the same rush, the same feeling. It smells like a jolt of caffeine. It's so incredible. I love wearing this not only because it's very present and it's super potent and it lasts and lasts and lasts, so much so that even at the end of the day, I keep getting whiffs of the beautiful greenery depicted in this fragrance. The naming Beach Hut is very misleading. You tend to think that this is a very summery, very beachy fragrance with a lot of coconut, a lot of tropicalness to it, but it actually doesn't have any of that. This is more of a jungle hut. It's very green. The most dominant factor in this is the most beautiful, realistic mint note that you'll ever smell. The mintiness in here is so hyper realistic, you can almost touch it. It really feels like grabbing a fistful of mint leaves and macerating them in your fingers. It smells exactly like that. Actually, the greenery in here is far more varied and far more nuanced. You can easily pick up other stuff like basil, like rosemary, like other oily greens. There's so much depth, there's so much complexity, so many facets, so much to explore. The scent then dries down to this beautiful woody incense. Again, it's sweet, it's beautiful, it's natural, it smells vivid, it smells exactly like a jungle. As I said, this is more like a jungle hut, and the imagery that I get from this fragrance is more in tune to something like surviving on a desert island. Maybe something like Lost or something like Castaway. There's something raw, primal, and visceral about the scent that really triggers my nervous system. It really makes me alert. I love wearing this, and I especially love wearing this in the heat. It's such a beautiful, refreshing, powerful, elegant start to the day. It's like a splash of ice water to the face. It's so incredibly invigorating. This is kind of like a fougere minus a lavender. If you like manly scents, if you like edgy greenery, this is a scent to get. This is a scent to have. It's absolutely incredible. Stepping into the top 5, I have no doubt in my mind that these are my favorite fragrances ever. Position number 5 goes to a Les Indemodables fragrance. This one here is Ambre Supreme. This is one of the more special fragrances that I ever came across. It's so unique smelling. The real ambergris here really pulls some tricks because this smells So incredibly rich, so classy, so refined, yet so traditional at the same time. As I said multiple times, Ambre has this incredible special effect of coming across both animalic, a little bit marine-y, a little bit stinky, but at the same time it gives you this effortless cleanliness, which I'm so attracted to. And I can totally see how people in the past, when this was originally introduced in perfumery, totally freaked out about it, making it one of the more sought after ingredients ever. I absolutely love it. It's actually one of my favorite notes next to incense. It's so unique. This fragrance is absolutely amazing. Les Indemodables is a house that is absolutely amazing. I love everything that they do. Their fragrances come across as clean, traditional, very, very elegant, very simple to a degree, but this is far from a simple fragrance. You spray this on and you're immediately met with this powerful aldehydic soapy opening that smells exceedingly clean, like the most luxurious soap ever. It's very, very potent, very in your face. If you don't like aldehydes, this is a little bit difficult to stomach. The opening is where you get the bulk of the florals. You get some yellow ones, maybe ylang ylang, immortelle, and you get some white florals, maybe jasmine. They come across as very furry, very dense. The scent as a whole comes across as incredibly thick. It's a very high quality, rich scent. It smells incredibly special. It's one of the more special fragrances, smell-wise, in my collection. I love wearing it. It just smells so different from everything else. It's super unisex, really, really abstract. This is one of those fragrances, especially in the dry down, that makes your skin smell so unique, so special, so high-end. It adds this layer of sparkle to your skin. It adds to the skin chemistry. It doesn't replace it. It doesn't even smell like a fragrance. It smells like your skin, but better. Like the best version of your skin. Like your skin after you've been bathing in the sun, being at the beach, and just having a good time. And people that have a good time and live stress-free come across as gorgeous, smelling beautiful, and smelling luxurious. And this smells exactly like that. If you have never tried the House of Les Indemodables, do yourself a favor, get yourself a discovery kit. It's so high quality, such good value. It's cheap. You get 11 fragrances, 3 ml each, beautiful sprayers. It really puts a perspective on perfumery, on modern perfumery. Experiencing the brand really highlights how low effort most fragrances on the market are today. This is such an amazing creation. So amazing, in fact, that I'm scared of running out. This might actually be the first fragrance that I get a backup bottle of. Blasting into number 4, we have another incredible Amouage feature. This one also is amazing and pupil dilating. It's Royal Tobacco, perfumed by Cécile Zarokian. Royal Tobacco is right up there as one of my favorite fragrances ever. I should be wearing a lot more of this, especially considering how much I like it, especially considering the effect that it has on my nervous system, on my eyes, and my general mood. This comes across as very potent, very pungent, it's very, very smoky, it's masculine, it's edgy, it's so exciting. Exciting is the word to use when talking about Royal Tobacco. Cécile Zarokian did an amazing job really combining realistic tobacco note, realistic tobacco smoke with this beautiful frankincense, with this beautiful Omani signature. There's so much to be discovered in here. There's so many nuances to be experienced throughout multiple wears in this scent. One of the standouts, in my opinion, is the beautiful, realistic, woody licorice note. I absolutely love licorice. I love everything to do with licorice. I love candy. I like tea. I even like chewing on the actual roots. This is such a beautiful, realistic rendition of that woody, rooty, fibrous licorice without going over the top, without throwing a ton of sweetness or sugar at it. There is sweetness in here, but it's a very natural smelling sweetness. It smells like the wood itself. It smells very classy, very elegant, very well dosed. The sweet woodiness in here alternates with the bitterness from the smoke and the tobacco, creating this incredibly rich, dense, exciting wear experience that is not replicated by anything else out there. The deep dry down, which occurs many hours down the road, the scent lasts basically forever, is a little bit more sweet, is a little bit more likable, it's a little bit more mellow. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to smooth out the scent to really end the wear experience. It's such an incredibly well-tailored, balanced scent profile. Yes, it's aggressive. Yes, it's a little bit loud. You can't really wear this in many situations. It has very low versatility, but every time I do put this on, it puts a smile on my face. It's just so incredibly mesmerizing, so energetic, so exciting. Again, exciting is the name of the game here. This is one of the most exciting fragrances I've ever put my nose on, and it was love at first sniff. Get yourself a sample of Royal Tobacco. You will not be disappointed. All right, we're in the top 3 on the podium. In bronze position, we have one of the most impressive fragrances that I've ever smelled in my life. It's one that I've deemed a perfect fragrance. We're talking about Portrait of a Lady by Frederic Malle. Portrait of a Lady is a very, very special fragrance to me. Not only is it my favorite rose fragrance of all time, and if you know me, I've gone through many, many rose fragrances, but nothing really came close to replacing this. This is such an amazingly rich, well-balanced, well-designed fragrance. This is actually the first fragrance that really made me realize how difficult it is to create such a beautifully balanced, elegant, unisex, wearable, elegant, classy perfume. This is almost perfect. This is one of the most perfect perfumes in my collection, one of the most perfect perfumes I've ever smelled in my life. And beware, although definitely one of my favorites in my collection, when I talk about the perfection aspect of this, I talk about it in a very clinical way. It's just such a well-crafted, masterfully designed product first and foremost. It's just so smooth, so rounded off. And it doesn't necessarily transport me anywhere. It doesn't tell me any story. It's not very narrative, but somehow it's just so mesmerizing. There's something so incredibly addicting about watching something so perfectly polished, so refined. It's like the most beautifully cut gemstone. It wears exquisitely. The tonal curve is perfect. Everything about it is so masterfully done. It could be worn by anyone in any situation. This can be easily signature scented, and it's so functional in pretty much every situation. It goes casual to elegant. It just wears so perfectly. And the weird thing about this is that although it's clearly a rose fragrance, especially to the nose of an enthusiast that is capable of deconstructing scents, when smelled in the air, especially by third parties, this comes across as very abstract. I've asked multiple people what they smell when smelling this, and they don't really know what to tell me. A lot of people say it just smells elegant, it smells dark, it smells refined, it smells rich, but they don't really pinpoint the rose. It's not necessarily a rose fragrance. And I'm saying this because I don't want anyone that is afraid of florals or afraid of rose to be put off by this. This is not grandmother-like whatsoever, at least to me. Some people say that it does smell a little bit grandmotherly, but rose is a very polarizing note. It's one of the most loved and most hated at the same time, and it's very prone to scent association. So if you have or had a grandmother that wore a lot of rose water and you don't want to necessarily smell like that, this might not be the fragrance for you. But other than that, I really recommend this to everyone. It's such a beautifully put together concoction. It's just so masterfully crafted. Again, it's expensive. It's hard to find at discounters. It's just rare in general. People say that it's been reformulated, but to me, it's worth all the hype. It's worth all the price, and I'll gladly repurchase this once this bottle is gone. Position number 2 goes to another one of my favorite brands ever. This one here is from Zoologist, and the fragrance is Bee by Cristiano Ganali. Bee is such an amazing fragrance. It's one of my favorites, not only because it's so high quality, so hyper realistic, it smells literally like honey, like putting your nose in a honey jar, but also because it's so mood lifting, so mood enhancing. This is so relaxing, and at the same time, it's so invigorating. In a similar way to other fragrances on the list, this one also fills me with optimism, and it really charges my energy. It really allows me to tackle the day and plow through it. There's something about these sweet, juicy, hyper-realistic florals that comes to me like a sugar rush. It comes to me like sunshine. It just brings so much light to my day. The honey note in here, as I mentioned before, is so realistic. It's the main part of the fragrance. There's no other fragrance on the market that smells as realistic. And I love honey. I love eating honey. I just like the flavor of honey. This smells exactly like that. It's built in such a beautiful, balanced way. It has a little bit of an animalic edginess to just tame all the sweetness down. It's just such an interesting fragrance. And again, it smells so incredibly high quality. It's easily the star of the Zoologist lineup. It's one of the more popular zoologists, and I can totally see why. It's so mesmerizingly well put together, well crafted, and yet so creative. No other fragrance that I've tried at least manages to perfectly balance, as this one does, the creative part of perfumery, which is such a beautifully well put together wearable experience. This is so undeniably honey. It's so undeniably bee. I love Zoologist. I love Victor Wong, as I say in most of my reviews and features. I love the brand. It just resonates so much with me. I applaud Victor Wong for his work, for his creativity, and for him assigning briefs to perfumers and just letting them convey their own image of these animals. The Zoologist fragrances are, to me, a highlight of niche perfumery. I'm just such a massive fan. I have a lot of them. I keep collecting them. Bee has still been the standout in my collection from them. All of the other ones are super cool. They're all very, very memorable. It's just such a fun, true niche brand that brings a much needed breath of fresh air in this overly saturated, overly serious fragrance space. Everyone can use a little bit more fun, but fear not, Zoologist is to the rescue. Position number 1 for my top 10 favorite fragrance list was probably the easiest one to assign because it's been the most reliable and the most stable. We're talking about the last Amouage on the list. We're talking about Amouage Interlude 53. Ladies and gentlemen, I really don't know what to say about Interlude 53. All I know is that this is one of those fragrances that every time I smell it, every time I put my nose to it, I'm reminded by why I love fragrances, why I love perfumery. I started out this journey, started out for real with Amouage, with Interlude Woman. And the whole Interlude family has been a wild ride for me. And to my nose, to my eyes, Interlude 53 represents the star of the line, the best product in the range by far. I understand it, it's not a perfect fragrance, it's incredibly polarizing, it smells very intense, it smells very weird, it smells strange, it's a very strange concoction of notes. It comes across as like overly aggressive, overly potent. It's just so incredibly long lasting. A lot of people don't like wearing it just because of that. It's such a massive commitment, and that is actually one of the reasons why I haven't been wearing this as much as I want to. The other reason and main reason actually for me not wearing this as much as I would like is due to the fact that I'm incredibly protective of the scent. I'm incredibly protective of the wear experience that the thing provides. I'm not trying to gatekeep it or anything like that. It's just that I'm kind of terrified of wearing off the effect that this has on me. This has the ability to put me in such an incredibly relaxed state of mind, in such a peaceful Zen mode, that anything could be happening around me. My house could be on fire and I would be totally fine. This is almost a spiritual psychedelic experience to me. It's so dark, rich, and dense, and every time I smell it, I get instantly transported inside this pitch black tent filled with smoke. I can't see anything, my eyes are burning from the smoke, I'm coughing, I'm sort of choking on the smoke, and I can only perceive this slight smoldering log in the background that is just emanating this cloud of smoke. It's almost a psychedelic experience, as I said before. I almost start seeing colors. It's so incredibly mesmerizing. This is one of the best creations by Amouage. I really applaud Christopher Chong, who came up with the idea, Pierre Negrin for really putting it into practice, and surprisingly, even Renaud Salmon for revamping and remastering the original Interlude in this beautiful extract version. I love this fragrance. This is my favorite fragrance of all time. This is so me. It fits my character, it fits my personality. It's potent, it has presence, but it's also deeply, deeply introverted. And although the original Amouage lineup is very well known for their narrative and storytelling capabilities, this one here does not necessarily connect with me in that way. It connects with me in a much deeper sensorial way. It really hooks up to my brain, it really hooks up to my nerves, and it triggers me like nothing else in my collection, like nothing else on the market that I've tried. And for this alone, I'll say it again and I'll repeat it once more. Amouage Interlude 53 is my favorite fragrance in my collection, standing tall on the podium, fiercely clenching that gold medal. Alright, we're at the end of this. This video was incredibly fatiguing to think about, to prepare, to film, and to experience overall. All of these fragrances are incredibly intense. They mean so much to me. They're so evocative. And although I'm not sure that all of them will stay within my top 10 favorites, I'm still super happy to have brought them to you, to have talked about them, and to have showcased them. They all deserve spotlight mentions because they're all absolutely incredible. Once again, I'm incredibly eager to thank all of you guys and girls who watch my videos, comment, like, subscribe, and just overall participate in this beautiful fragrance experience. Without you guys, this channel would have been nothing. Without you guys, I'm just some guy speaking into the void. Again, super grateful. I'm super eager to bring you more content, better content, more variety, more ideas, more fun things, more interactivity first and foremost. I'm really aiming for this channel to be an exchange, a two-sided exchange, because me talking into the void, again, it's fun, you guys listen, you like it, but it kind of gets old. I like hearing your stories first and foremost. Thanks again, I can barely believe it. Here I am, sitting 1 year later, 10,000 subscribers later, and I'm not necessarily one to chase numbers, but I can't deny this is very, very exciting. Thanks again, I would be nothing without you. See you in the next one, and cheers.